Okay, so picture this. You're back in high school, but for your final assignment, you're not writing an essay. You have to design the entire fabric of our existence. You're literally creating the blueprint for the human soul. Well, that's the wild thought experiment at the center of our explainer today. Let's see what these students cooked up. So this is the big question, right? Are we here to be graded? Are we here to learn something? Or are we just cosmic entertainment for some being out there? We're about to dive into 4 totally different answers, and each one paints a completely different picture of reality. All right, first up, we're going to look at the 4 competing plans. These come from 4 students, Diesel, Abby, Rev, and Evan. And trust me, each one has a really unique, kind of provocative take on who we are and why we're even here. This table basically gives us the roadmap for the 4 blueprints. On one end, you've got Diesel's idea, very materialistic, where the soul is just memory. Then you have Abby's plan, which is this high-stakes, trial-by-fire gladiator arena. Rev gives us this interconnected, all-one-mind idea. And finally, Evan suggests a long-term soul school. You can see we've got 4 very different creators leading to 4 vastly different destinies. Let's break them down. First up is Diesel. Now for him, the soul isn't some magical floaty thing. Nope. It's just data. It's the sum of your memories, your personality, everything that makes you, stored in your brain. So when your body dies, the data gets wiped. That's it. Game over. The only shot at immortality? Maybe, just maybe, if we get smart enough to upload our consciousness to a computer. Then you've got Abby's plan. In her world, a lonely creator makes these experimental souls and just throws them into Earth, which is basically a brutal testing arena. And to spice things up, he creates these dark beings called tempters to constantly attack them. It's a one-and-done deal. You pass the test, you get to be a servant for eternity. You fail, and, well, your fate is a whole lot darker. Rev's model? Totally different. In his universe, there are no separate yous and me's. We are all just extensions, like tentacles of one single universal mind. This all-one mind uses us to experience physical life, kind of like binge-watching a TV show. It gets to feel all the drama, the highs, the lows, but with 0 real stakes. And when our life is done, our consciousness just gets sucked right back into the hole. And finally, there's Evan's plan, which frames our whole existence as a cosmic curriculum. Earth is a soul school, and we're here learning about virtues and wisdom, not just in one life, but over many, many lifetimes. The goal isn't just to pass some test. The goal is to evolve, to grow, and to eventually graduate to become a co-creator of the universe yourself. Pretty cool, huh? So there you have it. 4 totally different cosmic blueprints. You could be a hard drive, a gladiator, a tentacle, or a student. But here's the twist. What if every single one of these systems, no matter what its purpose is, has a major vulnerability? What if there's some outside force whose only goal is to completely wreck the game? And this is where we meet the story's villain, an uninvited guest who crashes the party with a completely different plan, not for the soul's growth, but for its total and complete shutdown. Meet Sir Pent. He's not a creator, he's a CEO, and his product is apathy. He shows up with this super seductive alternative to all the struggle and learning we've been talking about. His pitch is simple. Why are you trying so hard? Just stop. It's easier. Just let go. And this is the critical part. Sir Pent's #1 goal is to transform humanity. He wants to take active souls, whether they're gladiators or students or co-creators, and turn them into what he calls human viewers, passive spectators, basically NPCs in his own personal harvesting field, running on what the source calls an alien autopilot. That's a state of mind where you're not making conscious choices anymore, you're just being driven by outside influences. And his methods, well, they sound chillingly familiar, don't they? He uses the scroll hole to put us in a trance. He works to dismantle our natural, built-in BS detectors. He gets us to replace our own reason with groupthink and our inner moral compass with a kind of hyper-individualism. And what's the end result? A population of lotus eaters, people who are spiritually and mentally exhausted without ever doing any real, meaningful work. But the story doesn't end with him winning. Faced with this massive threat, the students combine their ideas. Those 4 blueprints for the soul, they become the foundation for a toolkit for resistance. And the stakes really couldn't be clearer. On one side, you have Sir Pent's dream, the passive, spiritually asleep spectator.
And on the other, you have the goal of the resistance, the active, awake human doer who's described as a master of their own craft and a warrior of light.
So how do you actually become a human doer? Well, the source offers some concrete steps. Practice deep literacy, which means reading actual books for 30 minutes a day to rewire your brain away from constant distraction. Reconnect with your inner compass, that quiet little voice of your conscience. Protect your own energy. You can think of it as sealing your aura. And consciously choose your own mindset. Don't just get sucked into the negative herd mentality. Now, this whole thing may have started out as a high school thought experiment, but the story makes it really clear. The conflict it's describing is meant to be seen as very, very real. The game is on, and what's at stake is our own consciousness. And here's a number to really ground this whole thing. According to the source material, Sir Penn's whole dopamine debt cycle has successfully shrunk the average human attention span to just 8 seconds. This isn't just some spiritual metaphor. It's a cognitive battle that's happening right now, inside our heads. And here's a chilling warning that comes from Serpent himself. Just knowing about his plan, just watching this explainer, for example, it's not enough. Awareness is absolutely the first step, but it's not the same as actually having power over these forces of disengagement. You have to act. But the source is clear. You are not powerless. It says every single player in this game has these core assets. You've got a connection to your higher self, that inner voice of conscience, and most important of all, you have your free will, the absolute power to choose how you respond to anything. And that really brings us to the very end. The final message is all about your own agency. In this narrative, victory isn't something that's just handed to you, it's something you have to choose. So the only question left is the one right there on the screen. What is your next move?